So somebody had asked what the difference between sport mode and track mode. So I usually run on custom mode, so I put the transmission in sport and suspension on sport. That's my custom mode. But if you look into the sport mode looks like that, right? Everything's on sport, 717 horsepower, right? And traction control is off on the dash. And then track mode is this. Everything's on track, everything's red in color, and then traction control is also off. But let me explain a little bit more what that truly means when you're driving it, okay? So let's go for a ride and I'll explain the difference in the way it drives between the sport and track mode, okay? Because I've driven in both. Let's set up this camera on the camera holder. All right. So I always like to drive on the custom mode that I just showed you, because it's, for me, it's the most enjoyable ride. Suspension not being too bouncy and tight, and the transmission shifts just right, and I still got full traction control, right? And all the safety systems of the car in check, in place. Now, when you go into track mode, something different happens, and let me explain. Let me give a moment here. Let's go on. I'm gonna make a left turn here, and this road is kind of tricky. But let's paddle shift this thing. It's rowdy. Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And that is on custom mode. Oh yeah, that's more like it. No matter what happens, man, whatever day it is and you're feeling down, you drive the Hellcat, puts a smile on your face. And I'm truly blessed that on Friday afternoons and on weekends I get to drive this thing. It's fantastic. I wish I could convey the feeling and the emotions more than the reaction you see and the sound that you see, right? But let's go ahead and explain sport mode. Okay. Sport mode basically is, as you saw, everything's on sport and the traction control is off. But what it allows you is, it allows you to drive the car in a fun way. So if you want to do slide around, like take corners and slide, do donuts, you know, fun things you can do with a car, like drift and things like that, sport mode is your friend. That's how you do it, sport mode, okay? Do that there. That's the difference between sport mode, and it's a fun mode. I rarely use it just because I like to keep my car on the road, and I'm not expert in drifting. I can slide the car, I can, but I'm not confident enough to drift the car in a non-controlled environment, so to speak. So if you want to do that, that's the mode you're in. Or you can just completely turn off traction control. And by doing that, you press the traction control button for maybe 10 seconds and everything's completely off. And you can do donuts and whatever you want, slide around, right? And that's what you see those Hellcats doing, you know, sideshows and sliding and things like that, which is dangerous, right? Not only dangerous to the driver and the passengers, but dangerous to the people around, other cars and other people, bystanders, things like that. So that's why I don't do that stupid stuff. I just enjoy driving the car, going from 0 to a certain speed and doing fun stuff that are not reckless. Now, track mode on the other hand, I've used multiple times. So every time I go in a back road, twisty roads, and last year at the Tail of the Dragon, track mode is what I use. From what I understand, from what experts in this cars are saying, and including the Bondurant Driving School or Radford Racing, where you get the SR3 driving experience, track mode is the mode you use for track, hence the name. This is how it feels to drive a track mode. It is bouncy as heck because the suspension is so tight. That's why you need a very smooth surface, i.e. the track, right? Well, the Tail of the Dragon is pretty well paved, really nice road, so there's not a lot of bumps in it. And what it does, although the traction control is off, the traction control and other electronic nannies are dialed in such a way that it keeps you on the road, it keeps you on the track. So it's designed, the computer is managing all those safety systems to keep the car on the road, if you get what I mean. Although you see in the dash, the traction control light is off, or it's turned on, which means the traction control is off. But what really that means is the computer is managing it in a way to keep the car on the road, not slide it, but it will slide if you want to, but control situations where you can go fast on a track for entry speeds and exit speeds on corners, and maximizing the car's performance, that you can perform as best you can on a track. And what I'm experiencing at Tail of the Dragon is perfect. I mean, the corners and the Dragon are very technical, right? You see corners that are tight, hairpin, and it's reduced, it narrows, off camber, downhill, uphill. It's tricky. So if you're on sport mode on those roads, and if you're not a very good driver and can manage the slide, you will end up in the trees, either on the wall of the mountain or down the mountain. So, but I used the track mode in the Tail of the Dragon, and we were having a more than spirited drive, and it kept the car planted. The shifts are a lot faster in track mode compared to sport mode. It would not shift to 7th gear. It will only shift to 6th. On sport, it will go up to 7th, but not 8, because 8 is the overdrive, right? Cruising gear. So now in track mode, aggressive shift, stiff suspension, but the traction control keeps you on the road. That's why it's best if you're like me, who want to have fun on the back roads, carving some twisties and things of that nature. Okay, you say, okay, Hellcat is not made for that, right? Hellcat is not made for twisty roads like a Miata would, or, you know, a small sports car would, you know. Yes, I agree, but the engineers of Dodge designed the wide body to have a much faster entry speed and a much faster exit speed than previous Hellcats. And they did that by the suspension and the steering components of the car. They stiffened it up. They put bigger sway bars, better springs and suspension. So that if you decide to do so, use it in a track or use it in back roads, you can do so safely and quickly. So yes, Hellcat is not the ideal weapon on those type of roads, and I completely agree because I've experienced it myself, but you can do it, and it can do it in a fun way. All right, so track mode is your friend in those type of driving situations. So now that is the difference between the sport mode and the track mode. Hopefully that this video explains the difference between those two, and I didn't know it either until I did my own research a couple of years ago on which mode should I use in certain driving situations. For me, I use custom mode most of the time, and I rarely do use the sport mode setting where everything's on sport, because I just don't like sliding around doing donuts and things like that. That's not my style of driving. I just like to drive fast up and down roads and in the back roads and twisties and things like that. I've taken it to the track, and track mode is what I use. So that basically explains what the difference between those modes are. So hopefully this video gives you that perspective if you are thinking of the difference. And one of the subscribers asked that question, the difference between sport mode and track mode. So this is your answer. I forgot his name, sorry, but this is your answer. Comment below if you have any more questions about the driving modes of the Hellcat. But I can tell you, track mode, you probably barely get 9 miles per gallon, especially if you're really pushing the car to its limits or to your driving limits. Because this car, if you've seen it perform at the Bondurant driving school, this car on the track is fantastic. Quick, handles well, and it's just fun to drive. So that's it. That's why you buy cars like this, because they're fun to drive. Okay? Hopefully that answers your question, and I'll keep driving around because I'm enjoying this situation, and we'll see you next time. All right? Bye for now.